Hello and welcome to the Embracing the Mystery podcast, hosted by yours truly, Dani Rem. This is a podcast where we have expansive conversations around living an empowered and embodied soul-led life, expanding your consciousness and belief systems, what it means to fully embrace the mystery of life that we are all living, and so much more. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave a rating or review wherever you listen. Share it on your social media platforms, like and subscribe. Thank you for being here and enjoy. Welcome, Kelly, to the Embracing the Mystery podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today and so excited to get to share with so many people who I know are so interested and have given me so many compliments over the years on our works of the underwater modeling and art and photography. So I'm really, really excited to have you here and have this conversation today. Thank you for being here.
Oh, Dani, thank you so much. Such a pleasure, such an honor, and I'm just so delighted to be on your podcast.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you so much. And I wonder if you want to start off telling us a bit about just how you got into this, because, a lot of people love photography and art, but underwater photography is like a whole other ball game. So I'm curious, like, what inspired you and drew you to this kind of photography?
Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, there's my longer version of the story, and there's the shorter version. But if we really want to go back a little bit, I went to the Philippines in 2010, and I had the opportunity, actually through Model Mayhem, which how we connected. Somebody had asked me with an opportunity to work in the Philippines, and at that time, I was open to it. The timing was right, so I had this internship in Cebu, and they had an underwater photo studio, which was the first time I've seen something of this nature. And because the Philippines, so many islands, so beautiful. It was also a film academy, and so they would shoot underwater scenes for bits of movies and things like that. So I got to see the BTS, and the owner had flew in models from all over the world, and also photographers, cinematographers, all sorts to kind of help with his projects. And that was the first time I saw people take, human models, underwater and shoot them that way. And I was really enamored, and I thought, wow, this is so cool. I've always seen beautiful marine life photography, but you know, um, shooting it with the intention, to shoot fashion with fabrics and styling and makeup. It was a whole new thing for me to experience.
Wow, yeah. And it really is like a whole production. Like we would always joke, like we come with bags of fabrics and props and things and we go out there for, who knows how long. And I always tell people, they're like, these are so amazing. And your photography to me like looks so much like watercolors or like painting and it's just so beautiful. But when people talk to me about it, I also tell them, like it's not as easy as it looks, you know? Like it's a lot of hard work
No, it's
because
not. Yeah. And actually, someone recently messaged me and said, yeah, they thought the work was really special because he had seen, music videos, but the photographers were like standing behind a piece of glass shooting models in a pool. And I just thought that was really funny because, yeah, our experience is totally different. And yeah, we are literally painting with bodies and fabrics, and everything's moving underwater. And it's a whole immersive process. It's definitely a, what did you just say? It's a
production.
production, absolutely, because we think of a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot of things we need, and there's a safety aspect, and there's time limits, right? There's a certain time limit, and we have to deal with the ocean and the weather, the temperature that day.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's so worth it. And yeah, there's a performative aspect to it for sure. It's really an aquatic performance, and I'm also immersed in it as well. So it's so beautiful. So I know I have seen the pools where there's a glass and people shoot behind the glass, but I'm like, where's the fun in that? It's
Exactly.
much
We,
more fun to like cough up salt water, see
yeah.
turtles, hear the whales.
Totally. Yes. Oh my gosh. It's such a magical experience. And within that too, I'm thinking about our piece Emergence, and maybe you can talk a little bit about the award that it just won and everything that's happening with that. And also, I know like the story of how this piece came to life is like so special and just like the concept behind it. So maybe you want to share a little bit about that
Oh,
and
sure. Oh, that piece, I mean, it means so much to me. And it's a piece that was not intended because, I had a different vision. And I just think, okay, what started with, I was obsessed with this cave and I really wanted to shoot in this cave. And it was years that I was thinking about how I could do that. And I remember so excitedly telling you about it and wanting you to see it. And I mean, it was such a beautiful day. We went out. However, I remember when we got there, you said a little prayer and you're hoping that there were not any sharks in there. You're hoping there were not any sharks in there. And there happened to be a reef shark like patrolling back and forth. And I remember like, oh, okay, what do we do now? But at the same time, I felt like, you know what? I think we have to trust how we feel. And I think at that moment, we were not ready. I felt your energy and we were not ready to go inside. So, okay, let's just wait it out. And I remember that we were just about to just try shooting a little bit outside. Okay, let's just try shooting outside. Are you ready? Yeah, let's go. And then this beautiful turtle comes flying out. And I remember you took a deep breath and you had such poise and we looked at each other and we just knew, okay, go. And then we just did a sequence of shots and it happened so fast. I didn't even know we got anything. I didn't know until we got back on land. I was sitting at my computer. I was like, oh my God, we caught, we did it. I caught you with the turtle flying out and it was just such a beautiful experience that we both had. And there was like, the waves and some currents, and but you were so calm. And I was so amazed that your expression and I mean, just everything just came out in those few moments.
yeah, that was such a cool experience. Like the turtle literally appeared in the perfect moment, like as I was like coming up from diving down, and also such a beautiful opportunity because usually we were shooting with like silks and colors and things, but this was like so raw and authentic, like
Yeah.
with this other creature from the ocean, which also gave us a beautiful opportunity to like speak about the turtles and I think we donated a portion of
Yes, we
whatever we
did.
made
Yes.
to the turtles and protecting them and rescuing them and
Yes, we donated 20% of yeah, the sale that we made from it. A large piece. The collector's in California. He loves the piece. And yeah, we did 20% to the Maui Marine Center, the Ocean Center that does the rehabilitation and turtle rescues. So I'm really proud of that.
aw, so beautiful. And now it's gonna be on the cover of a magazine, correct?
Yes, I mean, this is such an honor, and it just blew me away when I got that email that, this image was chosen as the winner of the 24th Julia Margaret Cameron Award, which is an award, an international award for women photographers.
Mm.
And so I had friends that had, won different categories, but I didn't expect to win like the top category in the professional series. So it's really big honor. And I'm just so happy that the image moves people. It is so special, like what you said. I think this is the only piece I have that has marine life and a person in it, which is very difficult to capture. And
Totally.
again, just I think just everything just came together for us in that moment of surrender and of flow. And I think the turtle just shows us too that, just let nature kind of lead the way.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's such a powerful message.
You shared with me just their symbol too. The turtle symbol is so powerful in so many cultures, but especially the Polynesian ones. Like it's believed that they were the ones that showed the Polynesians how to get to the islands and very strong connections to their ancestors.
Yeah, they do have a beautiful message of, again, what you said, like flow and going slow, and also having like home on their back, being home wherever you are. So that was really
That's
sweet
right.
that that turtle showed himself on that day and brought that medicine in.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so grateful. So yes, so it's going to be shown in Barcelona this summer. The reception's June 19th. And yeah, and so receiving this award, it opened up an opportunity for me to show actually my largest exhibition yet. There'll be 20 photos for that.
Wow.
So very excited. It's been a process. Yes, I was just sending them the imagery, the files the other day. So really excited. A lot of you will be in it.
Yay.
In the
Wow.
series, we did Wonderland. That was our first series. That will be part of it too.
Aw, that's so special. Yeah, those are some of my favorite ones, which is so funny because like I knew how to free dive, but I had never done like anything like what we were doing, but they turned out so beautifully, which is really cool. You're a very good director.
Well, I mean, you bring such a calming presence, just such a calming presence. And I think with your breath work, there's just something so
Mm.
peaceful in your expression. And that's very difficult to do underwater. And that's another
Yes.
thing about underwater, like people's expressions are really important. And when you're underwater, you're not breathing, you're submerged. It can feel uncomfortable at times. So it's often not easy to have a calm expression.
Totally, yeah. Do you want to speak more about like the process of shooting underwater, like what that's like? Because I feel like people are probably really curious.
Sure. Gosh. Well, I mean, there's a technical part. I mean, I've already done photography for 20 plus years. So you have to have the photography down. You have to have the right housing. And I mean, I started off just putting a camera, point and shoot, in a plastic bag from Amazon in a pool. So
Wow.
I think, yeah, I mean, you could do it from a very basic level to start. Um, so yeah, I would recommend, just definitely start in a pool where it's a more controlled environment. But yeah, if to shoot in the ocean, it gets a lot more complex. As you said, the free diving skills of your subject, of yourself, that's something that I I feel like you do need to train regularly because if you're not in the water, then you're not using those muscles and you're not practicing, the breath hold, which is very different in a pool than in the ocean. And also, you have to think about what you want to wear. As the photographer, you need to keep yourself warm. So then you're dealing with layers. So the layers can add buoyancy. So then you need weights. And then if you need fins, which is a really good idea to help give you that kick and the power to swim out and to dive down, then you need more weights depending on your fins. So there's a lot of logistics like that just to
Uh,
start with. And then you bring in the fabrics and the subject and kind of assessing their level too. And yeah, I'm very actually very particular with models because you really want to make sure that they're ready to go in the water. They have the skills because I feel a big liability. I feel a lot of responsibility, for the other person, and you do need to make sure that they are going to be warm enough, they're going to be comfortable enough, and at some point, if they do feel too cold or their muscles start tensing, then you need to make sure that yeah, to get out of the water and to get the whatever assistance needed.
right. Yeah, I remember you always took such good care of me. You always had like I think it was either like ginger tea or matcha from my favorite cafe and like some banana bread or something for afterwards because it was such hard
Yes.
work.
Yeah, and some treats are always good to have, especially something warm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know I like to have ginger tea. And so I know, and the models are doing, just as much work, if not more, because you don't have that. um, padding that I do, the suit, the wetsuit or the rash guard. So I always feel like I'm responsible for your well-being.
Totally, yeah. Yeah. And I'm curious what your journey has been like as an artist because I know like in today's day and age, maybe people are more encouraged to take a traditional path that offers like financial security or like benefits, like healthcare and things like that. But as an artist, we're really responsible for ourselves and our creations, our babies, and and do you want to speak to that at all? Did you ever have doubts or did you ever want to quit or what has this process been like for you? I mean, now you're being shown in Barcelona and like on the cover of a magazine, but did you ever think you would get to that point?
Well, I think there's always instability as an artist, as an entrepreneur. I mean, things can change really quickly for the better, for the worse. I think art is just something that I don't know. It's something that you feel you have to do or you don't. It's
Mm.
also a bit of I think it's an act of rebellion because logistically it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to do any of it. It doesn't make any, there's no sense to it. The only sense it makes is the joy and the experience. So I think as long as you love what you're doing, I mean, none of the other things matter so much. And I think also you have to separate the monetary value and the creation. And I don't know. I think you just really have to create from a place. I think the most powerful work is always personal work, creating from that space of just pure inspiration and the passion to do it. And I always love yeah, I think my most powerful pieces, like the one that we've done, is because it came from us and the need to create. And so it's very different than commercial work or from doing commissions, things
Right.
like that.
And when you're speaking about inspiration, I'm curious if you want to share where you get your inspiration from. And I know like so often you were sending me these images of like Greek goddesses and like Greek mythology. So maybe you want to share that a little bit because
Oh
I feel
yeah, I love
like
mythology. Yeah, I
it's
love
really
mythology.
present.
And well, I think being in the water and looking at imagery in the water, it does reflect like our subconscious. And there's something about the water that just seems to evoke um yeah, something deeper within us. And I think that's also what mythology, teaches us about deeper lessons in life and the pursuit of something and overcoming something. So I do feel like, yeah, I've read a lot of Greek mythology and yeah, where does inspiration come from? Well, I am inspired a lot just by going into the water, just by going into the ocean. And I'm also inspired by fashion elements and fabrics. And sometimes I just go by, oh, I really love, the color of this fabric and how will it look like underwater? And I wonder, yeah, just kind of the curiosity, I guess. But as a scuba diver, I had the chance to do some black water diving, which is night diving off Kona, and that was a huge inspiration because I saw all these little, you know, all these little creatures that siphonophores and these tiny little comb jellies and things like that are not visible during the day. And it really got me thinking about just, their role in our environment and just how needed they are and how tiny they are, but yet our whole ocean ecosystem, it depends on these creatures and the whole food chain and how much we owe to the ocean of our life on this planet.
I've never gone diving at night, but I can imagine it's such an incredible experience. And I remember you sending me some photos. I don't know if it was from that or you found them online, but I think it may have inspired when we were working underwater at night in a pool.
Oh, yes. Several times, I remember. Yes.
Yeah, with would you call it black light or what would you call that? Long exposure or
What were we doing? Well, we were like, kind of light painting, I would say, like light
Mhm.
painting. And oh, yeah, we created, yeah, the Muses project that came out. Yeah, I wanted to do light painting underwater. Yes, I was very inspired by the technique, and I had never seen it done underwater. So I wanted to experiment with that. And yes, also, yeah, being inspired by the bioluminescence and all the luminescent beings.
Yeah, those came out so incredible and I remember it was so perfect too when we were shooting because I was like really connecting like to the Pleiadians and like these other cosmic
Oh,
energies
right.
and those photos were like also very, very cosmic and incredible and they're some of my favorites that we've done and yeah, it was such an interesting process, right? Because I'm like underwater and then you're like swimming up to like paint me with this light brush, and also like capturing it all at once and I think especially with underwater photography, you don't really, correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't really know what you get until you like sit down and look on your computer, right?
That's right. You really
Yeah.
don't know what you get. And especially with something as experimental as that, where you're just really playing and, hoping something comes out. I mean, it's just a lot. You just have to shoot a lot. And I think that's another thing with underwater photography. You have to shoot a lot more to get results because yeah, there's just a limited amount of time that you could be underwater. So it's a little different than being on land. But yeah, that was so much fun. And working with the light. And you're right, they came out really cosmic. And yeah, that's so perfect for your Pleiadians.
Yeah, that was a really fun one. I really enjoyed that as well. It was so different, to do it at night, but it was really, really cool and something so magical too about being in the water at night and having the lights and yeah, really special. And I appreciated that you were like trying something that you'd never seen done before because yeah, it is like such an experiment, and I feel like you and I like our collaboration process is very much about like, well, let's just try, let's just play, let's just, like see what happens. And we have this intention, but we also always like surrendered it up to whatever it was going to be. And I feel like that's also a good metaphor for life, and it ended up working out. So,
Yes, yes, indeed. Like letting go of the outcome. Yes, that's a big part of it. And I think I've always, yes, I've always kind of stressed that, yeah, no matter what, we're having fun in the process. Like the experience is enough. And if we get something from it, that would be great. That would be fantastic. But if it didn't work out, we have the experience.
exactly, yeah, which is just as valuable, but it's even cooler to have also like the physical, tangible result of
For
what
sure.
happened.
Yes, yes. And yeah, I was really surprised by those early ones that we did, that how well they came out. And yeah, I mean, I ended up making, well, I was in the NFT space at that time, so I had sold editions of that. And yeah, it did really well. And yeah, I think 33 editions all sold, and we donated some of it also to the Ukraine war, which had started at that time. So yeah, I'm
Wow.
glad that it made its way, to people.
That's still such like a funny concept to me. I'm like somewhere like over the world, like I'm on somebody's wall or on their phone or computer. But it's so cool. It was like always a really kind of like random dream of mine. I mean, I have a Leo moon, so obviously I like to be in front of the camera, but I never expected that. But yeah, when I came to Maui, I thought, yeah, maybe it's time to put some energy into this. And it was such a healing process for me too, because
Mm.
you created such safety and I hadn't actually done shoots before where I'm like not covered much or maybe sometimes naked, but there was like so much safety with you. And it was really a beautiful reclamation of my body and like my beauty and my sensuality in such a pure, way, because it really was like we were creating art. It wasn't like I'm like posing like this without a lot of clothes, like for attention or
Right.
something like that. But it was like we're like birthing like paintings, it was really, really special. So thank you for that.
Oh, Danny, that's so sweet. I loved how you explained that. I mean, that's wow, in such a detailed, clear way. Yeah, you're right. I think the process is really healing, and I'm so happy to hear how it was for you. And I think when people see some of the pieces, and I want to say, like Goddess of Love and Unseen are two of the most popular pieces, I think, that are
Mm.
on people's walls.
Wow.
And people really love Goddess of Love. It's so flowy with the fabric, and I think and my intention when I still remember when I saw you in the pool that we were shooting in, and oh my God, the light just hit so perfectly, and the flowers and the fabric was so beautiful. And the message that I wanted to come from it is just like, you know, mm, romantic love is great, but what about self-love? And we all have this divine energy within us. So I think that message really speaks to people, and I hope that through art, there could be more healing, that people feel a sense of their own divinity, their own higher self through the pieces. And the water, there's such, I hear it very often, there's that etherealness to it. And it's similar to
Yes.
flight and, angelic in a way. You have that levity, and you can and things get kind of topsy-turvy, like sand can look like sky and waves can look like clouds. So there's that mystery about it. And I hope that people, kind of like your podcast, I hope that they can sense the mystery and that divine part of themselves. They could
Mm.
see it through the art.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Art is such a mystery, right? It's like a lot of times it's like where does it even come from? But it like comes through our vessels and is birthed onto the earth plane in this really beautiful way for people to perceive and make their own thoughts and have their own experiences with. It's really special. I've been having such a deeper appreciation for art lately and even like desiring to collect art myself, which it feels exciting. Um, I just was with a man who's a painter from the Amazon the other day, and he painted this hummingbird on one side of my face and like a jaguar on the other, and I
Oh, I
thought
saw that. They're so beautiful, so
you
detailed.
yeah, I was so sad to wash it off, but it had to happen. So, but yeah, it's just like there's so much incredible healing that can come from art. And I really pray that people feel that through whether it's like they're creating the art or they're perceiving it. It's something that I hope that we don't lose on our planet. Creativity is so healing, and it's like we need to express ourselves. And there's so many different ways to do that. Like underwater photography is your medium, but there's so many different ways.
Oh, absolutely. And I know I grew up just really loving art and spending time, looking through books at the library or going to some museums. I mean, that was my healing. Like I feel like when I'm in the presence of such great art, you're so moved. There is some healing, there is some transformation happening, transcendence maybe.
Hmm.
So I really believe that art can heal the world.
I agree too. And I'm curious, how is your process photographing other people? Like, is that healing for you? What is that like? Like, does it light you up? Is that why you do it, or
Oh, that's very interesting. I mean, I've just done photography for so long. I mean, I feel like photography is so special because it's like a point of view. It's it's an observation, and it also can tell a story. Like I've done photojournalism. I've shot a lot of portraits when I had my studio. So, and even when I was doing portraiture, I think I love capturing, other people. And even when I was doing that, I used to do pinup and boudoir photography, and mostly women. I had some guys come in, but mostly women. And I remember actually one of my oldest clients photographed her multiple times. She had told me it was healing for her because, sometimes you go through divorce, you go through, separations or whatever it is in your life, and it just feels good to have some photos taken of yourself. So it's interesting. I see myself kind of as a healer in a way from what I've heard from other people that photography is, yeah, it gives people a chance. I guess you need both, right? You have the observer, the photographer, and then you have the person who wants to do the expression. So it's a kind of a partnership.
Totally. Yeah, co-creation.
That's
Uh,
right.
Yeah. And I so relate to what you're saying about it being healing. I mean, I mentioned that earlier, but yeah, it for me it was such like a just a powerful reclamation of like the ability to be like beautiful and like permission to
Mm.
be beautiful and be seen and shine and be sexy in like the purest way, you know? It was so much fun for me.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. And yeah, I think, yeah, I have heard that before that, sometimes it just takes somebody else's point of view
Hmm.
to see yourself in a different way. And I mean, I rarely have photos of myself taken, but when I do, it's like, oh, when you see that person's point of view, it's like, oh, I love that. I love how they saw me. And you see
Wow.
yourself in a different way. And I used to do some self-portraits too, and it's um yeah, there's something, yeah, just like a fresh perspective, you know? So yeah, I think it's definitely healing to see, yeah, to see somebody else's eye.
I agree with that, and I've actually never heard it said like that, but I love that. And I so had that experience in Maui. I feel like the photographers there are really good, you and some other people that I worked with, not underwater, but on land. And I
Mm.
remember like getting the photos back and I was like, oh my God, like I've never seen photos like this of myself, you
Right?
know?
Yeah.
But I've had photos done, but like they just weren't good. And then you can kind of go into that thing like, oh, I'm not photogenic, but sometimes it's also like we said, it's a co-creation. Maybe it's not so much your fault. Maybe you're beautiful, but it's a weird angle or, the person doesn't know what they're doing with the lighting. And so I know there's so much that goes into it. And yeah, you guys are just you're so awesome on Maui.
There's definitely a lot of creative talent here on Maui for sure. And I want to say that, yeah, underwater, it's so different because I think the water, it does kind of blur things and the fabric and the movement, and things are not necessarily so clear. And I do have a friend that she says, oh, she doesn't like any photos taken on land, but when she goes underwater and she sees her underwater photos, she loves it. She loves her underwater photos, but she feels she's not photogenic on land, which I disagree. But that she loves, yeah, having her underwater photos taken. So it makes me happy that, and again, it builds self-confidence, It's just like putting on makeup or getting a good haircut, you know.
Uh-huh,
If you
totally.
could see yourself reflected in a beautiful way. And I think, and again, I feel like through my art, I hope that people can see some essence of themselves in some way that can uplift them and
Mhm.
to kind of shine that light that, yeah, we're all going through something. And yeah, perhaps, we're doing better than we think we are.
Yes, it's so true. Yeah, sometimes we can be so hard on ourselves or so self-critical. Like, I mean, I guess especially if you're getting photos taken, but also just, if you're navigating life and it is true, we are usually doing a lot better than we give ourselves credit for. And I love that you bring that in. It's so true. And I just wanted to share one more thing real quick, just in relation to this and how it's been healing for me. I had an experience in 2019. It was actually with ayahuasca. It was with plant medicine, and she showed me like my inner beauty. And when I had that experience, I decided I'm not going to wear makeup anymore. And I haven't since. I've only worn mascara. And then occasionally you would like give me some like lip gloss or something to like, make it more like I guess like the color more saturated underwater or something. But that's why it was so cool when we found each other because I was like, oh, underwater, you're definitely, I mean, for me, not wearing like a bunch of makeup, or having to powder your face a bunch. And so that was so perfect for me. And yeah. I know you mentioned earlier we met on Model Mayhem, but just for people listening, it was so crazy because Kelly and I lived like right down the road from each other, and I put myself on this super random, like outdated platform called Model Mayhem and reconnected and just went out there and did it, and such a beautiful friendship and creations formed. So yeah, I'm super grateful for that.
I know. I mean, technology, even old technology, can bring people together.
Yes, I don't even know how I found out about that app, but it was super crazy.
Yeah, it was, I mean, yeah, I was on that app, gosh, when I still lived in New York or something like that. And there was no Instagram, there was no other social media platform for, the creative industry for models and photographers. So that was the one.
Wow. Yeah, and you were such a safe person for me to shoot with. I remember I would get like DMs from like creepy dudes and stuff, but I would just
Uh,
ignore them. Like I only work with Kelly. The app
um,
served its purpose, but
um,
yeah,
yeah, the universe, it finds us in strange and mysterious ways.
it does. It totally does. God
Yeah,
knows
and
what
I'm
he's
so
doing.
grateful that we were on Maui at that time together. I mean, I'm still here, but yeah, that you've traveled beyond.
I know, yeah. Now I'm in Peru and I'm like, I don't think there's any places to do that here. Maybe in the lakes, but I don't know if it's clear enough. Yeah. But I just have a couple more questions for you, Kelly. I'm curious why you chose underwater instead of land.
Oh, okay. So yeah, after the Philippines experience, I loved it. I was so inspired. But I came back to I had a photo business. I came back to working and I just got really burnt out, like shooting for other people. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to close down my business because I have a daughter. I got pregnant and my daughter, I guess I was still working a bit. Um, until so I was working until she was I can't remember, maybe it's like 6 months or something. And I decided to close my business. And I decided, you know what, I'm done with photography. I'm so burnt out. Like I don't want to shoot for anyone anymore. And taking care of a toddler, is just really too much. And I thought I could do without photography. And wow, I fell into a dark place, Dani. I yeah, I was depressed and I was so happy to be a mom, but I realized, gosh, I need something for myself, and I'm getting a little teary just thinking about it. And so one of my friends who actually I met in the Philippines working, she was a professional makeup artist. And she told me, Kelly, all you have to do is commit to one photo shoot a month.
Hmm.
And in a year, you can have a portfolio. Just commit to doing one a month. And I thought, oh, that's doable. Okay, I could plan one photo shoot a month. And I don't have a photo studio anymore, but I had a pool in our complex in
Wow.
California. So I called up one of my former clients because she was very photogenic and I knew she did like kind of aerial arts. So I knew she was going to be able to move well, probably in the water. And I think she was a lifeguard or something. So we started shooting. Actually, we first started shooting at Mount Shasta. I went back to shooting like analog film because I thought I just need to get my feet wet again. I want to be intuitive. I don't want to know what I'm shooting. So I'm going to shoot like on film, so you don't really know what you're getting. And I'm going to have it processed the old fashioned way. So we did all these photos at Mount Shasta. And then I realized, oh, we shot around waterfalls in water. And I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. So why don't I take her in the water and see what happens? And then once I took her in the pool, oh my God, I feel like everything just exploded for me. It was so ethereal. And I felt like I found my chi back. I felt like my life force energy was back, and it got me out of a depression, and I just realized that okay, I need to continue my photography even though I don't have a business and even though I'm a full-time mom at this point. It's just something I need to do. And the underwater photography, I mean, it was just kind of a lifeline for me, not having a studio, but having a pool. And and I made a vision board. I made like a little vision board of, kind of tropical places. And I started thinking, oh, I want to shoot in the ocean. And so I kid you not, 2 weeks after I made my vision board, my mom calls me and says, hey, my friend Linda has that timeshare on Maui. I saw that they had a week that was available and I booked it for you. So if you want to go in October, and that year is 2017, you can go. And I'm like, oh my God. So that's how I came to Maui, through that little timeshare. And I shot the first time like underwater in the ocean in 2016.
Wow. I love this, Kelly. I don't know if I've actually ever heard that story in the way that you just shared it, but it's so powerful because, yeah, I feel like when we disconnect from like what we love or our creations, like you said, you're like, I got depressed and like I just had to do it. And then when I did, like all my energy came back, my chi came back, and like
Yeah.
thank God, you followed that because it's been such a gift, like to me, to the other models you work with, like to the people who have purchased
Oh,
your art, and that's just so beautiful. And so, as I'm understanding, you were shooting on land first, and then this happened, and you started shooting in water.
yeah. And it
Okay.
brought me back. Yeah. Because well, I just felt like, yeah, I was shooting. I took the model. Yeah, we wanted to go somewhere inspiring in nature. And I thought of Mount Shasta because I'd never seen like these waterfalls before. So I wanted to go there and just to go. And I thought, oh, that'd be a beautiful place to shoot. But then I remembered that, oh, it's all around water. Why don't I go in the water? And, I've seen it before in the Philippines. So and then my friend Michelle like inspiring me about just setting that goal, and I love that. Just make little goals for yourself that, and when you do it, you feel so good about doing it. And then that year, yeah, I was able to make my goal. Like every month I did a photo shoot and I made a new website and I got into some gallery exhibits from my underwater photography. And I just feel like when you're following what you're meant to do, what makes you happy, like the universe does open doors for you. And so I didn't
Yeah.
even have like a full underwater photography kit. Like I was still using like plastic bags, like pretty cheap plastic bags to just put my DSL in. Well, I kind of upgraded to using my DSLR, my larger camera. But when you're shooting these plastic bags, you really can't see anything. Like it's really like hit or miss. And I'm like, I can't shoot like this forever. And so I put it out there. I'm like, oh, I want to buy an underwater housing kit, but they're so expensive. They are, $4,000, some of them, a nice one. And then I looked on Craigslist and this guy was selling his used kit for just less than $2,000, and which was a big investment to me at that time. My husband was like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I'm like, "Yes, there's no way I can't." So not to, And so I bought the kit, and I was using it all the way up until I think I bought it in 2017. I was shooting it all the way until 2021.
Wow.
And his camera was already 10 years old, so it was already a used kit, but he kept in such good condition. And yeah, it was only in 2021 that I upgraded to the one I have now. But I'm just so grateful that I had that. And that's what I shot the early pictures of you in that
Oh,
used kit.
wow. That's so special. Yeah, and it's so true that when we are following our heart, that you said the universe opens doors for us, and I think that's something as like a creator or an entrepreneur, like you really have to trust and keep just like following that joy or like the little breadcrumbs on the path and like the next step and the next step. Like you were saying, you're like, I can just do like one a month and and then maybe you do more because you have more inspiration because you're doing what you love, but that's such a good thing you spoke to, I think, for others who are entrepreneurs or creatives. And yeah, I really feel like art saves lives, like the artists' lives and also people who see it. So I'm really glad that you followed that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I realized it just wasn't a way to live, and it's no, it's and I feel sometimes I feel bad because I don't want to. Oh, I remember, gosh, I was part of like these when I was living in California. I was part of these like preschool. What do you call it? They're like these play-based like preschools that you had to also volunteer your time. So I would sit in a room with these other moms, and we had to share what was going on. And I remember when I started finding my photography, I shared it in the group. But then I realized I felt so bad afterwards because some moms started crying because they felt so overwhelmed and so tired and they didn't have their job anymore. They didn't have anything. And I came in. I was like, oh, I'm so happy I'm doing, these photo shoots because I felt really bad actually. Remember this one meeting and I remember my other friend, she was doing Pilates. She had her own Pilates studio. She ended up not sharing about her Pilates studio, like kind of shrinking down. But
Mm.
so it's kind of like this dichotomy of do you share about what you're doing to inspire others, or will it make other people feel like they're not doing enough? I think as women, there's a lot of societal pressures, whatnot, and we each have to find our own way. And I know for others, it can look very, very differently than how I do it. And I know my mom thought very differently. She always tells me not to go in the water, um,
Oh,
to just stay at home and be safe. And, but I have to realize that that's not the best for me, you
right.
know? And yeah, so I do encourage women to pursue their desires and I think reading that book, Women Running with the Wolves, Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Este Picola,
That's so funny. My roommate was
right?
literally reading that book to me last night.
Oh, such a powerful book.
Yeah.
Yeah, a friend recommended it to me, and I happened to go to Kona, I think, that weekend, and I found it in a used bookstore. And when I read it, it just, yeah, it just made so much sense to me. And again, she talks about like so many beautiful stories of, yeah, like we have like the water of life like within us. We cannot let the river run dry. I
Right.
remember that. And I think if you stop doing what gives you life, yeah, it's letting the river run dry. And so many women, I mean, balancing family and job and relationships, it's tough. It really is tough. So you have to find that thing that gives you life.
Mm.
And for me, I love
Absolutely.
my daughter. I really do. But I need the separation of creation and to also, yeah, pursue my own things so that she can see, what I'm doing, what's meaningful to me.
You still have to be like your own individual. And I feel like that's probably so empowering for your daughter to witness, and gives her also permission to explore her desires or her creativity. And also just wanted to speak to what you're talking about, if you do follow your creative pursuits, maybe it's triggering for other people or it brings stuff up for them. And maybe it's not always pleasant, but I feel that it is so important to do it anyways and to let ourselves shine, like you said, because ultimately, even if it brings up this part of them that is maybe feeling, like you said, like comparing or engaging in these things like not enoughness or these thought forms that essentially aren't the truth of our nature, right? But it's an opportunity for them to like release that and also like be like, oh, she's doing that. Like, I need to get back into what I love too. So I just want to honor you for
Right.
like being that beautiful inspiration and kind of like guiding light probably in that moment for those moms. And I'm sure if there's mothers listening, they can probably relate to everything you're saying.
And it is a process. It is baby steps, and I had to take baby steps. And I had a friend that was starting her life coaching business, so I was one of her first like students, and that helped me a lot, like having a life coach. And I remember her just telling me, just go outside in your garden and look at a beautiful flower like every day, just to, just look at beauty. And I think again, that's so important. How much time do we give ourselves just to look at beauty, just to look at nature, right? So I think just making these small steps is so important, that just allowing ourselves to be filled with joy instead of being filled with errands to run, our
Uh-huh.
to-do list, because it's always way too long. So so yeah, I just think, yeah, for everyone, just doing these little baby steps towards, what makes you happy. Yeah, it's really important.
Aw. That's so beautiful, and I feel like that's a really good place to stop. And Kelly, I just want to thank you again for being here. I want to honor you for like how far you've come, especially just hearing, your story today and what's going to be happening in Barcelona, you sharing the pieces, and it's all just so exciting, and I'm so excited for you. And yeah, I just pray that you continue creating in the ways that you do. And yeah, your art is so beautiful and such a blessing.
Oh, Dani, thank you so much for having me here. I mean, it's such an honor, and just because of our connection, and I'm so grateful for the work that we created, that couldn't have done it without you. And I'm really grateful for, yeah, just allowing me to share today. And yeah, I hope whoever's listening, I hope that there'll be some good takeaways, and hope it was helpful. And yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, I love you, Kelly.
I love you too.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Embracing the Mystery, and I hope you enjoyed. To stay connected, you can follow me on Instagram at Dani M. Rem, or follow and like my Facebook business page, Dani Rem Embracing the Mystery, where I share weekly live channelings, guided meditations, and content to help empower you to live an authentic and embodied soul-led life. You can also find the links to this information in the bio of this episode. Thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoyed.